So the question was, what does Zen say about boredom? And that's a fantastic question. When I first started practicing, I was living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and one night a week they would have a double practice with 2 sittings. And the deal is you could leave after the first sitting, and it was a residential Zen center. There were about 5 or 6 people living there, and then people like me came in to practice in the outside, and nobody wanted to stay for the second sitting. I was the only person who would stay for the second sitting, which meant that the head Dharma teacher was really pissed off, because the head Dharma teacher had to stay also, because you had to have the person to, hit the chugpi to start and end sitting. And the way it worked is I always sat in this place where there was a window right in front of me, and it was a very old house, so the windows came very close to the floor. So the window was like about here, So I'm actually looking. I could look out the window if I wanted to look out the window, and I would sit there, and I would think, I am so bored. I am so bored. I want to bust through this window and jump down to the ground floor and run out of here screaming. That was my feeling. That boredom was just absolutely overwhelming, and I realized that I had to sit through that boredom. That trying to avoid boredom, just like trying to avoid anything, it just leads us into all kinds of problems. So yeah, boredom is not good and it's not bad. It's not like, oh, I'm bored and that means there's something wrong with me. It's like, okay, you're bored. Now what are you going to do with it? Just like Charlie said, every moment of your life, it's what are you going to do? So yeah, boredom is boredom. And not boredom is not boredom. And we shouldn't be like led around, oh, I don't want to be bored, so I'm pulled this way, Oh, I want things to be like this, so I'm going to be pulled this way. So if you're bored, just sit through your boredom. Whatever it is that you're doing, just keep doing it. Don't worry about if you're bored and if you're not bored. Just keep doing it. And yeah, in some sense, you can say people are bored because they're not really paying attention. Because if you really pay attention, things are amazing. I mean, do you ever look at a sidewalk in bright light? There were all kinds of little bits of shiny things in sidewalks. I don't, people who know how sidewalks are constructed and how you make concrete, they might have some idea of why this is, but sidewalks absolutely glitter in the light if you're really looking at them. So even a sidewalk, sand is the same way. It glitters if if the light's bright and you're really paying attention. If you pick up a glass of water and you look at it and the way the light goes through it, right? This world is amazing, but yeah, sometimes we're really bored. That's okay. It's just we're bored. So yeah, so be bored if you're bored, or not bored if you're not bored. But don't get captured, or don't get captured by not being bored either. That's really important, because we kind of get captured by that. Oh, the light and the water, it's so beautiful. And then we miss whatever else is going on around us. Or the desire to not be bored captures us. Don't be caught by anything. Just don't be caught by anything. So yeah, I remember being bored like that with such fondness. It was really great. I sat through that boredom, man. It was great. So thank you very much for your question. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, so what is the most important thing? So that's a very interesting question grammatically. We're always, grammar kills us. So let's deconstruct that. So we have what, and we have is, and we have the most, and we have important, and we have thing. So what means we have to go looking for it. So already we have a problem. And then is means there's some kind of independent existence. So we have a problem. And then the most means that there's nothing better. There's some kind of what in mathematics we call a partial order, and it's at the top. It's Mount Everest. There's nothing higher. So we're looking for something real that is nothing better, important. Like it's more important than anything else in the world. And then we have thing, which like is, it's a thing, has an independent existence. So every part of that is problematic. I have a Facebook friend who every day posts, what is the most excellent thing I can do today? And then she posts pictures of herself playing with her kid or something like that. Okay, that's nice, but that whole question, the real question is, what is this? Like right now in this moment, what are you doing? Who are you with? What are you dealing with? What is your job? What do you have to do? Just moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. And one moment is not more important than another moment. So the whole, what is the most important thing? And we do this all the time. That's sort of how our minds and our language are constructed. They encourage us to do stuff like that. And Zen literature is filled with stuff like that. There's this wonderful poem, the human route or route, depending on how you pronounce Route, coming empty-handed, going empty-handed, that is human. When you were born, where do you come from? When you die, where do you go? Life is like a floating cloud which appears. Death is like a floating cloud which disappears. The floating cloud itself originally does not exist. Life and death, coming and going, are like this. But there is one thing which always remains clear. It is pure and clear, not depending on life and death. Then what is the one pure and clear thing? Bingo! Same problem, right? And we ask you this, if you come for Zen interviews, which we'll be doing this coming Saturday, by the way, if you come for Zen interviews and you're early in your interviews, at some point you'll be asked, what is the one pure and clear thing? So it's like a trap. Language is this trap. William Burroughs used to say language is a virus from outer space. I don't know about the outer space part, but the virus, yeah, language, it's more contagious than coronavirus, more contagious than anything. So, yeah. So, what is the most important thing is a trap. But what is this? What am I doing right now? That's not a trap. You just look at it. Don't try to answer it with this. Just look at it. That's very important. Related to this question, what is the most important thing, is the question of the direction of our practice. And that's really what this is pointing. What is the direction of our life? What is the direction of our practice? And so there is this, and many of you have heard this before, but I'll say it again. There is this wonderful student and eventually teacher and eventually Zen master. He started out as he was from Hawaii. He was a sculptor. His name was Si Hoi Liao, and he eventually became a Zen monk, Mudung Sunim, and then he eventually got transmission as now I'm forgetting his name, Subang Sunim. And he died very suddenly at age 52, had a massive heart attack while giving an interview to a 12-year-old girl in Hong Kong. Just went, fell over, that's it, gone. But when he was still Si Hoi Liao and a relatively new Zen student, he wrote to my teacher, his teacher, Zen Master Sung San. And Si Hoi was known for being very irreverent. And he just sent this postcard. And he said, what is the fast road to Zen? And Zen Master Sung San wrote back and said, not for me. And that doesn't mean, because, I remember telling the story to my brother and he said, oh, good, I don't have to do it because it's not for me. That's not what it means. It means the direction of your practice is not about you. It's not about how do I feel better? How can I be a better person? How can I how can I not be sick? Or how can I not be unhappy? How can I not be bored? It's not about that. It means for whom are you practicing? You're not practicing for yourself. And you notice it's not saying you're practicing for all people, because then that's another trap, because all people, that's too many. And it's not saying I'm practicing for whoever's in the room with me, because that's too few. It's just, what is the direction of your practice? The direction of your practice is not about yourself. So, Charlie's question, what is the most important thing in your life? That's really this question, what is the direction of my practice? And not for me is just pointing. It's not an answer, it's just pointing to the answer. And the answer is in how we live our lives. Every day, every hour, every minute, every second, every nanosecond. That's how we answer it, not by saying something. So thank you very much for your question. Are there any other questions? Okay. So the question was about two of my four favorite lines. So the full poem is, words cannot show truth. Speech cannot point into nature. One who holds words is dead. One who attaches to sentences is lost. So that's a poem by the monk Mumon, who was the person who compiled the Mumonquan. And the Mumonquan is an important collection of koans that is used in all the Linshi schools. And this is the commentary on the koan where a monk asks Zen Master Joju, why did Bodhidharma come to China? And instead of saying the obvious, oh, Bodhidharma came to China to propagate Zen Buddhism, instead, what Joju says is the cypress tree in the garden. So why did Bodhidharma, who brought Zen to China supposedly, why did Bodhidharma come to China? And then Joju's answer is the cypress tree in the garden. And then Mumon makes a commentary and he writes this poem. And the poem is, words cannot show truth, speech cannot point into nature. One who holds words is dead. One who attaches to sentences is lost. So I already talked about that. I already talked about how language distorts things. And language forces us into ways of thinking that don't correspond to what's actually real. So that's what he's saying. He's saying that if someone asks you, why did Bodhidharma come to China? And you say, oh, Bodhidharma was the sage from India, and he, was in the, did Zen, and in China they were doing sutra study. And so he came to China in order to teach the Chinese, Zen practice, this meditation practice instead of reading sutras. Then what you've done is you've just killed everything. You just made everything completely dead. It's just a shadow. Like Plato's cave, right? People think the shadows are real. They don't turn around and see the world. So that's what language does. And if you hold on to it, it's useful. It's a tool. We use it. I'm using it right now. I don't know how well I'm using it, but I'm using it. But what am I using it for? I'm using it to point somewhere else. So that's what that's about. Words cannot show truth. They can vaguely point in the direction, but they can't show it directly. Speech cannot point into nature. One who holds words is dead. They're not living in the actual world. They're living, sometimes there's the real world and the language world, and they don't quite touch. So if you're living in this world, you're dead. If you attach to sentences, then you're lost because you don't know what's really happening. Okay? Thank you for your question. We have time.
I have a question.
Okay, turn the right. Thank you. So the question was, what is Dharma combat? So Dharma combat is what happens in interviews. You come to an interview and I ask you a question, or Stan asks you a question, whoever the teacher is asks you a question, like, what is the one pure and clear thing? And you have to have an answer for it. And most of the time your answer will be wrong, which is fine. It's, that's good. Because then this, you're wrong, and we're too used to being right all the time. We have everything kind of, we sort of know how things go, and we think we understand everything. And then it's really good to realize, whoa, I don't know anything. Wow, I'm stuck. That's really good for us because we are stuck. Most of the time we go around glibbly, glibbly, glibbly. We think we know what we're doing. Boy, it's glibbly, you repeat it. It's sort of a wonderful nonsense word. We just go around thinking we know everything, and we don't know anything. And really coming face to face with that, boom, I don't know anything. That's really good. So yeah, so when you come to interviews, come on practice. That's part of Dharma combat. There's also, like, at ceremonies, like when someone is authorized as a teacher, then the students come and they do Dharma combat with them to see if this teacher's really up to snuff. Is this person really ready to teach? So first authorization is called Inca, and I think it's 32 people have to give you Dharma combat. The ceremony in this country, it's always in Providence, Rhode Island. And because you have to have a lot of people, if 32 people are going to do Dharma combat. But Zen masters have it easy. The next level is called Zen master. Only 5 people give you Dharma combat, so that's a lot easier. But yeah, so that's Dharma combat. So Dharma combat is answering questions from here, not from here. And this don't know is really important. We encourage this don't know, because this don't know is actually truth. This don't know is how we really are. This mind before speech, before thinking, this mind is a very important mind to have. This mind that says, wow, open, can really see, Like if you see, deer in a field, and you approach, and then suddenly you realize that something's there, and they go like that. This don't know mind. Well, what is it? That mind is very important. So yeah, that's what Dharma combat is about. Thank you. And now it's time for announcements. So you can turn the recording off.